She called the Chicago Mafia Boss baby by mistake, and in that frozen second, every breath in the hallway disappeared. Avery Collins was just trying to survive another impossible night, missing champagne-angry donors, aching feet, and a gala full of rich people pretending their secrets weren't darker than the city outside. She rounded one corner too fast, slammed into a man in a black tailored suit, and snapped the one word no one in Chicago would ever dare say to Cole Maddox. Baby. He didn't yell. He didn't reach for a gun. He smiled like he had just found something he wanted to keep. Tonight, this isn't just a mafia romance. It's a story about fear, power, desire, and the one mistake that can change a woman's life forever. Watch until the end like the video and comment where you're watching from. That smile should have been the end of the mistake. Instead, it became the first crack in Avery Collins's carefully controlled life. The ballroom beyond the VIP hallway glowed like a jewel box. Crystal chandeliers poured warm light over round tables dressed in ivory linen. Tall arrangements of white roses and blue hydrangeas stood in silver vases. Waiters moved through the room with champagne flutes balanced on their trays, their faces trained into polite calm, even though half of them were one spilled drink away from a breakdown. Avery knew that feeling too well. The Monroe Grand Hotel had been beautiful from the outside, all limestone columns and brass doors. But inside, it had become a living machine with too many moving parts. Every elevator ding, every clink of glass, every murmur from a wealthy guest sounded to Avery like a warning bell. This was the Callaway Children's Foundation Gala, one of the most important charity events in Chicago. Governors came here. Judges came here. CEOs came here to smile for cameras and pretend their donations were not just another form of reputation insurance. Avery had spent 4 months planning every inch of it. The seating chart alone had nearly ruined her will to live. She knew which senator could not sit near which real estate developer. She knew which tech founder demanded sparkling water at room temperature. She knew which donor's wife could not be placed near the woman everyone knew was his mistress. She knew the ballroom temperature, the kitchen timeline, the auction schedule, the floral delivery route, and the exact second the violin quartet was supposed to shift from classical music to something soft enough for speeches. She was supposed to be running the event. Instead, she was standing beside Cole Maddox. Not beside him, exactly. 2 steps behind him, close enough to answer questions, far enough to pretend she was not trapped. Cole walked into the ballroom without raising his voice, yet the room seemed to lower itself around him. Conversations thinned as he passed. Men who considered themselves powerful suddenly found reasons to look away. Women turned their heads with careful curiosity, then looked down before curiosity became disrespect. He did not need to announce himself. Chicago already knew. Officially, Cole Maddox was the owner of Maddox Harbor Logistics, a shipping and freight empire with clean offices, polished lawyers, and charitable donations in all the right places. His company moved steel electronics, wine furniture, and anything else that could pass through a port with the proper paperwork. His name appeared in business magazines under words like visionary, disciplined, and private. Unofficially, his name moved through the city in whispers. South Lake Syndicate, dock unions, political favors. Men who disappeared after making the mistake of laughing too loudly at the wrong table. Avery had always considered those stories distant noise, the kind of ugly rumor that belonged to people with tinted windows and private elevators. Her world had deadlines, broken zippers, melted buttercream, and clients who changed their minds after contracts were signed. Then she had called him baby. Now he had her following him through a ballroom full of people who were all trying not to stare. Cole reached table 1 near the front of the room. It had been placed under the center chandelier framed by a crescent of security and silence. Avery had argued against putting him there during planning because table 1 was too visible, too political, too charged. Patricia Voss, Avery's boss, had told her not to ask questions about men like Cole Maddox. Avery wished she had asked more. Cole pulled out his chair, but before sitting, he looked back at her. You are quiet now. Avery tightened her grip on the clipboard she had managed to gather from the floor. I am working. Is that what you call it? I call it trying not to turn a charity gala into a crime scene. His mouth moved slightly, almost amused. Then we both have goals tonight. Avery did not like that answer. She liked even less the way his voice made the words feel private, as though the noise of the ballroom had folded around them. Cole sat. Duke Ralston positioned himself several feet behind him, broad-shouldered and silent scar cutting a pale line across his jaw. The other two men spread out with the ease of people who could map exits without turning their heads. Avery noticed everything because noticing was how she survived events. The exits, the servers, the guests pretending not to look. The tension around Cole's table like invisible wire. A waiter approached with a tray. Duke stopped him with one glance. Avery stepped forward before the poor man dropped the glasses. He is on the approved service list, she said. Duke looked at her. He has nervous hands. He has been carrying champagne for 6 hours while rich people snap their fingers at him. Of course he has nervous hands. The waiter went pale. Cole looked up slowly. Avery realized she had just corrected Cole Maddox's guard in front of Cole Maddox. Again. For one terrible second, nobody moved. Then Cole gave the smallest nod. The waiter placed the champagne on the table and fled so quickly Avery almost felt proud of him. Cole picked up one glass but did not drink. You defend staff. I manage staff. There is a difference. There is if you have ever worked for someone who thinks money makes them a god. Cole's gaze lifted to her face. Avery felt heat crawl up her neck, but she refused to look away. Careful, he said softly. With what? With telling the truth in rooms full of liars. Avery had a response ready, but her earpiece crackled before she could use it. Mia's voice rushed through. Avery, please tell me you are alive. Avery turned slightly away from Cole. I am alive. You sound weird. Are you being held hostage by the dessert committee? Avery glanced at Duke, then Cole, who was watching her with open interest. Something like that. Mia lowered her voice. Do I need to call security? Avery almost laughed. It came out as a breath. No. Security is the problem. Cole lifted his glass at that. Avery ignored him. Status on champagne found. West Service Hall. Also, Mrs. Langford is claiming her table's centerpiece is blocking her view of the mayor. Tell her the centerpiece is doing the city a favor. Mia snorted. Avery pressed one finger to her earpiece. Keep the kitchen on schedule. Speeches in 20 minutes. Auction after dessert. No changes unless I approve them. Copy that. And Avery. Yes. Why do I hear fear in your whisper voice? Avery looked at Cole again. He was still watching her. Because I made a mistake. Mia paused. How bad? Avery lowered her voice. Historic. She ended the connection before Mia could ask more. Cole leaned back. Your assistant cares about you. She is my friend. Those are rare. In your line of work, maybe. His eyes sharpened, but his tone stayed calm. And what do you think my line of work is? Avery Collins. She hated the way he said her full name as though he had already taken it apart and decided where it belonged. Shipping, she said. His smirk returned. Smart girl. No. Employed girl. For the first time, something like real amusement touched his face. It changed him in a way Avery did not appreciate. It made him look less like a headline and more like a man. Still dangerous. Still untouchable. But alive in a way that made her stomach tighten. Across the ballroom, the lights dimmed slightly as the foundation director stepped up to the small stage. Applause rippled through the room. Avery checked her watch. The program was 4 minutes behind, which was not fatal, but personally offensive. Cole noticed. Time matters to you. Time is the only thing an event planner never has enough of. And yet you are standing here. Avery kept her voice low. Not by choice. Cole's expression did not change, but his fingers stilled around the glass. Choice is expensive. So is kidnapping a coordinator during her own event. I did not kidnap you. You blocked my exit. I redirected your attention. Avery turned her head and gave him a look so flat that one of his men coughed into his fist to hide a laugh. Cole's eyes flicked toward the man, and the laugh died instantly. The foundation director began talking about hospital wing scholarships, medical research, and generosity. Avery listened with one ear while scanning the ballroom with the rest of her body. Table 7 needed more wine. Table 12 had an empty chair that should not be empty. The mayor's wife was speaking to the judge's husband, which was either harmless or a future problem. A man near the bar had been looking at Cole for too long. Cole saw him too. Blue tuxedo by the ice sculpture, he said without moving his head. Avery followed his line of sight. Judge Martin Kessler. He is new, appointed 6 months ago. Married. Avery blinked. You want his biography or his dinner preference? Both. She sighed, then leaned closer so she would not be overheard. Married. 2 children. His wife is at table 4 pretending not to be bored. He requested no shellfish, no pork, and no press at his table. He also asked to be seated far from Alderman Reeve, which means they either hate each other or know too much about each other. Cole finally took a slow sip of champagne. You remember all that I remember everything that can ruin my night. His gaze slid to her. Then I must be unforgettable. Avery hated herself for the tiny flicker in her chest. You are certainly inconvenient. The applause rose as the speech ended. The room resumed its polished hum. Dinner service began, and Avery's body nearly moved on instinct. This was her moment to circulate, to check plates, to correct timing, to smooth disasters before guests knew they existed. But Duke remained near her shoulder like a locked door. She turned to Cole. I need to check the kitchen. No. One table gets the wrong entree, and I will have 3 donors threatening to pull funding. Then they can threaten me. That is not how event management works. I am sure you will adapt. Avery leaned down, lowering her voice to a whisper only he could hear. Mr. Maddox, I do not know what game you think this is, but there are 500 people in this room, and every single one of them paid money to be treated like they are the most important person alive. If I do not keep this machine moving, it falls apart. If it falls apart, people get angry. If people get angry, they start looking around. And judging by the way everyone is trying not to look at you, I assume attention is not something you want tonight. Cole studied her. The humor faded. There it was again, that careful calculation behind his eyes. It was not lust. Not exactly. It was recognition. You read rooms well. I build rooms for a living. Cole glanced toward Duke. Let her move. Duke did not like it, but he stepped aside. Avery straightened. Thank you. Cole caught her wrist before she could walk away. His grip was firm, warm, and controlled. Not painful, never careless. Avery looked down at his hand, then at him. Take Duke, he said. I do not need a bodyguard. That was not a request. She leaned closer, smiling sweetly enough to poison tea. Then tell him not to scare the caterers. Cole released her wrist. Duke. Duke looked over. Try not to scare the caterers. Duke's scarred face remained blank. I make no promises. Avery walked away before Cole could see her mouth twitch. Moving through the ballroom restored a piece of herself. She checked plates, adjusted a chair, whispered instructions to servers, redirected a guest who had wandered too close to a restricted corridor, and saved a tray of salmon from being delivered to the vegan table. Duke followed at a distance, massive and silent, turning every service interaction into a hostage negotiation. Avery finally stopped near the West Service doors and looked back at him. "You are making people nervous." "Good. No. Bad. Nervous servers drop things. They should have stronger hands. They have student loans and back pain. Be normal." Duke blinked once. "I do not know how." Avery stared at him. Then, despite herself, she laughed. It was small and quick, but Duke looked almost offended by it. "You are not as terrifying when you speak in full sentences," she said. "I will remember to stop." Before she could answer, her earpiece crackled again. Mia sounded breathless. "Small crisis. Patricia is crying near the coat check." Avery closed her eyes. "Why Mr. Ellison says his table is too close to the speakers and too far from influence. That is not a real metric. It is to him." Avery glanced toward Cole's table. He was watching her from across the room, his dark eyes finding her instantly through the crowd. That unsettled her more than Duke did. "I am handling it," Avery said. She spent the next 10 minutes soothing a donor with a fragile ego and a louder wife. She relocated 2 chairs, adjusted the speaker angle, and promised Patricia she was not dying. Though Patricia looked unconvinced. When Avery returned toward table 1, she saw the room shift before she saw the cause. People near the center aisle quieted. A few guests subtly turned away. One waiter stopped so abruptly the soup in his bowl nearly spilled. A man in a cream dinner jacket walked toward Cole's table. He was older than Cole by at least 20 years, with silver hair combed back neatly and a smile that looked borrowed from a funeral director. His posture had the relaxed arrogance of someone who had survived too many wars to fear the next one. Avery recognized him from the confidential VIP notes Patricia had told her not to read twice. Warren Pike, owner of Pike Freight International, public sponsor of youth boxing programs, urban renewal campaigns, and 3 museums, private rival of Cole Maddox. Avery had seen his name in connection with investigations that vanished witnesses who recanted and a dock fire that had killed 2 men and somehow resulted in no arrests. Warren stopped beside Cole's table. "Cole Maddox," he said, voice smooth as polished stone. "I did not expect to see you supporting children's medicine tonight." Cole did not stand. "Warren Pike, I did not expect to see you within 500 feet of a charity without a photographer attached." A few people nearby pretended not to hear. Warren's smile tightened. "I heard about the trouble at Calumet Harbor." Cole set his glass down. "Did you cargo missing?" Men embarrassed. "Expensive night." Avery felt the temperature around the table drop. Duke shifted his weight. Cole lifted 2 fingers, and Duke went still. "Trouble corrects itself," Cole said. "Sometimes," Warren replied. "Sometimes it spreads." His gaze moved to Avery. Slowly, too slowly. She felt it like dirty fingers on her skin. "And who is this?" Warren asked. "You bringing party planners into business now?" Avery's spine stiffened. She had dealt with drunk grooms, cruel mothers of brides, handsy donors, and executives who thought a woman with a clipboard was furniture. She knew that look. She knew the tone beneath the words. Before she could speak, Cole stood. No chair scrape, no warning. One moment he was seated, the next he was beside her. His hand came to rest at her waist. Avery's breath caught. It was not a grab. It was not a performance only for Warren. His palm settled as if it had already decided it belonged there. Heat spread through the thin fabric of her blazer. Cole pulled her just close enough for the room to understand. "She is not part of your conversation," Cole said. Warren's eyes glittered. "That so?" Cole's voice lowered. "She is with me." Avery's pulse kicked hard. Those 3 words moved through the nearby tables like a match dropped into gasoline. Warren looked between them. He smiled, but the humor had curdled. Careful. Pretty things have a way of becoming liabilities. Cole's thumb moved once against Avery's waist, slow and deliberate. If you speak about her like that again, the next thing you lose will not be cargo. Warren's smile vanished for half a heartbeat. There it was, Avery thought. The real man beneath the cream jacket. Cold, old, vicious. Then Warren laughed softly, still dramatic. Your father had the same flaw. Cole's face changed, only slightly, but Avery felt it under her hand because at some point, without realizing it, she had placed her fingers against his chest to steady herself. Beneath the expensive suit, his body had gone still as stone. Duke's hand moved toward his jacket. Avery saw it. She also saw 3 hotel security guards near the east wall, 2 senators watching from behind wine glasses, and Patricia on the far side of the ballroom looking as though she might collapse into the dessert table. A scene here would ruin everything. Maybe more than everything. Avery stepped in before she could think better of it. She turned her face toward Warren and smiled with all the polished venom her job had taught her. Mr. Pike, your table is ready for dessert. The chef prepared the bourbon pecan tart you requested. No cinnamon extra cream exactly as noted. I would hate for it to sit too long. Warren stared at her. Cole stared at her too. Avery kept smiling. It was the smile she used on people who complained about the color of napkins while a kitchen was flooding. Warren's eyes narrowed. Then he gave a small nod. Efficient. I try. His gaze slid once more to Cole. Enjoy the evening. Cole answered quietly. I am. Warren walked away. The room exhaled. Avery realized Cole's hand was still on her waist. She turned her head slowly. You can let go now. Cole looked down at her. The anger Warren had stirred was still there, dark beneath the surface, but something else sat beside it. Amusement. Interest. A dangerous kind of approval. You handled that well. I handled my event. You handled him. He was blocking dessert service. Cole's mouth curved. Is that what we are calling it? That is what I am calling it, if anyone asks. He leaned closer, his breath brushing near her ear. You played along beautifully, baby. Avery's face went hot so fast she hated him for it. She pressed one hand against his chest and stepped back. Do not call me that. His eyes lowered briefly to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. You started it. I was under duress. You were irritated. I am still irritated. I noticed. For a moment, the noise of the gala blurred. Avery knew she should walk away. She knew this man was danger wrapped in silk and tailored wool. She knew the hand that had rested on her waist had probably signed orders that ruined lives. But she also knew how Warren had looked at her, and how Cole had stepped between them without hesitation. That did not make him good. It made him complicated. Complicated was worse. The rest of the night passed in fragments. Avery returned to the floor, but never fully escaped Cole's orbit. Every time she crossed the ballroom, she felt his gaze. When she bent to speak with a server, he watched. When she smiled at a donor, his jaw tightened. When a young councilman touched her elbow to get her attention, Duke appeared from nowhere and stared at the man until his hand dropped. By 10:30, the auction began. By 11:15, a painting sold for more than Avery's childhood home. By 11:40, the mayor gave a speech about compassion while ignoring 3 calls from someone marked private. By midnight, the quartet shifted to slower music, and guests began drifting toward the exits with gift bags and secrets. Cole remained at table 1. Avery finally approached him with her clipboard hugged to her chest. The formal program is over, she said. Your liaison has completed her sentence. Cole looked up. Sentence? Yes. I have served time. His eyes warmed with that subtle amusement again. And did you learn anything? Yes. What? That rich people clap longer when cameras are pointed at them. Cole's laugh was quiet, almost unwilling. Avery liked it too much. She looked away. I need to close out with the kitchen confirm vendor pickup and keep Patricia from crying into the donation envelopes. Good night, Mr. Maddox. She turned. Avery. His voice stopped her before Duke could. She looked back. Cole stood. For once, he did not move closer. He simply looked at her from across the small distance between them. Go home. Lock your door. Her stomach tightened. Is that advice or a threat? Advice. From you that sounds like a threat. It is better than most warnings you will get. Avery searched his face, trying to find the game. What did Warren mean about Calumet Harbor Cole's expression closed? Nothing that belongs in your life. Funny, because tonight your life spent several hours standing in the middle of mine. The words landed harder than she intended. Cole's gaze did not leave hers. For that, he said, I apologize. Avery had not expected that. It was small, controlled, maybe practiced, maybe not. She nodded once because she did not trust her voice. Then she walked away. Behind her, Cole Maddox remained beneath the chandelier, surrounded by men who feared him, watched by enemies who hated him, and fixed on the woman who had called him baby by mistake. Avery worked until the ballroom emptied. She signed vendor forms, counted auction items, found a missing purse under table 9, convinced Patricia to sit down, helped Mia bully the catering team into packing properly. By the time she finally stepped through the hotel's rear exit, Chicago's night air hit her face cold and sharp. Mia followed her out carrying 2 garment bags and a box of leftover pastries. You look like you saw a ghost, Mia said. Avery stared at the alley where black SUVs had been parked earlier. Empty now. I think the ghost saw me. Mia frowned. Avery. I called Cole Maddox baby. Mia froze. The box of pastries tilted in her hands. You... what? It was an accident. Oh my God, I thought he was you. You called the Mafia Boss baby because you thought he was me. That is not the part I need you to focus on. What part should I focus on? Avery looked back at the glowing hotel doors. The laughter inside had faded. The music was gone. The chandeliers still shone through the windows, but the night felt darker now. He smiled, she said. Mia's face changed. That sounds worse than anger. It was. Avery hugged her clipboard tighter, though there was nothing left on it that could help her. For a second, she could still feel Cole's hand at her waist, hear his voice near her ear, see the way Warren Pike's smile died when Cole claimed her in front of the room. She should have been relieved the night was over. Instead, she felt as if something had followed her out of the hotel and into the cold. Mia touched her arm. Come home with me tonight. Avery shook her head. I am fine. That is what women in horror movies say right before the basement door opens. I live on the 3rd floor. No basement. Avery. She softened. I just need sleep. Mia did not look convinced, but she knew the limits of pushing Avery Collins after an event. They shared a cab back toward the city. Chicago rolled past the window in streaks of amber light and black glass. Avery rested her head against the seat and watched the river reflect the buildings like broken knives. Her phone buzzed once. Unknown number. She stared at it. No message. Just one missed call. Mia, half asleep beside her, did not notice. Avery locked the screen. Then it buzzed again. This time a text appeared. Sleep while you can. No name, no signature, none needed. Avery's heart beat once hard. She looked out at the city, at the towers and bridges and dark water, and understood with a slow, sinking certainty that the gala had not ended when the guests went home. It had only changed rooms. The text stayed on Avery's screen long after the cab turned onto her block. Sleep while you can. 4 words. No threat written plainly. No promise. Nothing she could show the police without sounding dramatic, and that made it worse. It sat there like a hand resting at the back of her neck. Mia walked her to the door of Avery's apartment building anyway, still holding the box of pastries like a weapon. "I am staying," Mia said. "You are not. You got a text from a mafia ghost." "I got a text from an unknown number." Unknown numbers do not usually sound like they are standing in a dark hallway wearing a $10,000 suit. Avery unlocked the front door, trying to make her hands look steadier than they were. "I need 3 hours of sleep before Patricia starts calling about invoices." Mia gave her a long look. "You are doing that thing." "What thing?" "Where you pretend being busy is the same as being safe." Avery opened her mouth, then closed it. The lobby smelled faintly of old radiator heat and someone's garlic dinner. A bicycle leaned against the mailboxes. Somewhere above them, a television laugh track played too loudly through thin walls. It was all painfully ordinary. That almost made Avery want to cry. She looked back at Mia. "I am tired. That is all." Mia did not believe her, but she hugged her anyway, one arm tight around Avery's shoulders. "Call me if anything feels wrong." Avery almost laughed. "Everything feels wrong. Then call me if it gets worse." Avery nodded. Upstairs, her apartment greeted her with silence. Small kitchen, narrow hallway, shoes by the door, a stack of unopened mail on the counter, a dying basil plant near the window that she had been meaning to rescue for 2 weeks. Nothing had changed. That was the cruel part. Her life looked exactly the same, even though she did not. She locked the door, then the chain, then dragged a chair beneath the knob, which was ridiculous and necessary. She kicked off her heels and stood barefoot in the dark, listening. No footsteps in the hall. No black SUV outside the window. No Cole Maddox leaning against her kitchen counter with that unbearable smirk. Only the hum of the refrigerator and the distant rush of traffic. Avery showered with the bathroom door open because closing it made her feel trapped. She washed hairspray, perfume, hotel air, and fear off her skin. When the water hit her waist, she thought of Cole's hand there and turned the temperature colder. By the time she collapsed into bed, dawn had begun to pale the edge of the curtains. She did not dream. Or maybe she did and forgot the mercy of it. At 8:17, her phone screamed on the nightstand. Avery jolted awake so hard her shoulder hit the wall. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. She answered with her eyes still half closed. "If this is about the missing votive candles, I left them with loading." Patricia inhaled sharply. "Avery, you need to come to the office." Avery sat up. Something in Patricia's voice cut through the fog. "What happened?" "Just come." "Patricia." A pause. A wet, trembling breath. "There are men here." Avery went still. "What men I do not know. They are very polite. That is somehow worse." Avery pushed the blanket off and stood. "Did they say who sent them?" Patricia did not answer. She did not have to. Avery closed her eyes. "I am on my way." Chicago looked too bright when she stepped outside. Morning sunlight bounced off windows and puddles. People walked dogs, carried coffee, argued on phones, hurried toward train stations, and lived inside a city that did not know Avery Collins had accidentally stepped across a line most people never saw. She wore black trousers, a white blouse, and the same blazer from last night because it was still hanging by the door. Her hair was twisted into a low knot that looked professional if nobody came close enough to see the pins shaking loose. The Bright Line Events office sat on the second floor of a renovated brick building near the river. Usually she could hear it before she entered. Phones ringing, printers whining, assistants negotiating with florists, someone laughing near the sample wall. That morning the office was silent, the kind of silent from the hallway after she had said baby. Avery stepped through the glass door. Every face turned toward her, then quickly away. Patricia stood near the conference table, pale beneath her foundation. Her scarf was tied wrong. That alone told Avery how serious things were. Patricia Voss would face death with a clean neckline. Two men stood beside the table in dark suits. One was Duke Ralston. His scar looked even sharper in daylight. On the table sat a cream envelope sealed with black wax. Avery stopped just inside the door. "No," she said. Duke turned. "Good morning, Miss Collins." "Do not good morning me." One of the junior planners gasped softly. Patricia looked as if she might faint. Avery walked toward the table, every step feeding the anger she badly needed because fear would break her. "What is this?" Duke lifted the envelope and held it out. "A formal request. A request usually lets the person say no." Duke's expression remained blank. "Mr. Maddox prefers clarity." Avery did not take the envelope. Patricia stepped forward, wringing her hands. "Avery, perhaps we should all just sit down and discuss this calmly." "Patricia, why are there armed men in our office?" The second man glanced at Duke. Duke answered. "We are not displaying weapons. That is not what I asked." "No," he said. "It is not." Avery stared at him. Then she turned to Patricia. "Call building security." Patricia's mouth trembled. "They are building security now." Avery looked toward the front window. A black SUV waited across the street. Another was parked near the alley. A third sat at the corner with its engine running. The city outside continued moving around them, blind and indifferent. Avery finally took the envelope. The wax seal bore a black letter M pressed clean into the center. She broke it open. Inside was a contract, not a simple booking agreement. A full exclusive services contract for Brightline events, effective immediately, covering 4 weeks of planning, production, staffing, vendor supervision, and on-site management for a private charitable function at the Maddox estate in Lake Forest. The number on the payment line made her dizzy. Below it, in black ink, was one handwritten sentence. "Avery Collins only." She read it twice. Then a third time because fury made words swim. "You cannot do this." Duke folded his hands in front of him. "It is already done." Avery turned to Patricia. "Tell me you did not sign this." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "He paid all cancellation penalties. He compensated the brides. He covered the charity luncheon. He offered enough to keep the company open for 2 years. Avery's throat tightened. Brightline had been struggling. Everyone knew it, though Patricia never said so aloud. One lost client, one lawsuit, one bad season, and the company would fold. Cole had not just bought the schedule. He had bought the fear beneath it. Avery looked back at Duke. "I am not going." Duke's eyes did not move. "Mr. Maddox expected you to say that." "Good. Then he also expected me to mean it. He said to tell you this concerns Warren Pike." The name landed quietly, but it changed the room. Avery saw again the cream dinner jacket, the dead smile, the way Cole's body had gone stone still when Warren mentioned his father. Patricia whispered Avery, "What is happening?" Avery did not answer. Duke stepped closer, lowering his voice enough that the rest of the office could pretend not to hear. "Mr. Maddox says you noticed things last night others missed. He says he needs your eyes. My eyes are not for rent." "No, but your company is under contract." Avery laughed once. It came out sharp and ugly. "Do you people practice making crimes sound administrative?" For the first time, something like respect flickered across Duke's face. "The car is downstairs." I did not agree. "Bring your coat." Avery looked at the faces around the office. Mia was not there yet, thank God. Patricia was unraveling thread by thread. The junior staff looked terrified. The black envelope sat open on the table like a verdict. Avery picked up her tote bag. Duke stepped aside. Patricia touched her arm. "I am so sorry." Avery swallowed the anger that wanted the easiest target. "This is not your fault." Patricia whispered, "What should I do?" Avery looked at Duke, then back at her boss. "Document everything. Save copies. Do not answer questions without a lawyer." Duke said nothing. Avery walked out before her legs could change their mind. The SUV smelled like leather, cold air, and money. Avery sat in the back seat with Duke beside her and the second man in front. The doors locked with a heavy sound that reached straight into her ribs. As the car pulled away, her phone buzzed. Mia. "Where are you?" "Patricia just texted me something insane." Avery typed with her thumb low against her bag. "Do not come to the office. Stay away for now." The response came instantly. "Absolutely not." "Where are you?" Avery looked at Duke. He was looking out the window, but she doubted he missed anything. She typed, "Lake Forest, Maddox Estate." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Avery, what the hell? Avery turned her phone face down. The city thinned as they drove north. Brick buildings gave way to glass, then quiet streets, then lakefront homes hidden behind hedges and gates. The sky was a washed pale blue. Lake Michigan flashed silver between bare trees. Duke sat like a statue. Avery finally spoke. "Does he do this often?" Duke glanced at her. "Hire event planners. Take women from their offices in broad daylight." No, that answer was too simple. She watched his reflection in the tinted window. Should that comfort me? No. Avery looked away. What does he really want from me? Duke was silent for a while. When he answered, his voice was lower. "For you to notice what the rest of us cannot. Because you are too busy terrifying the caterers." A pause. Then Duke said, "Among other things." The estate appeared behind black iron gates at the end of a road lined with old trees. The gates opened before the SUV stopped. Cameras turned from stone pillars. Men in suits stood near the driveway with their hands folded and their jackets cut to hide the shape beneath. The house itself looked like old money had married a fortress. Gray stone, tall windows, slate roof. A wide front staircase clean enough to reflect the morning light. Beyond it, the lake stretched cold and endless. Avery stepped out before Duke could open her door. She wanted that small act of control. The air smelled of water pine and distant smoke. Duke led her inside. The foyer rose 2 stories high with black and white marble floors, a curved staircase, and paintings of men who looked as if they had never apologized in their lives. A crystal chandelier hung above, bright enough to make the room feel staged for a magazine spread. It was beautiful. It was also watched from every corner. Avery counted 4 visible cameras before Duke opened a set of dark wooden doors. The library beyond was dim and enormous. Shelves climbed to the ceiling. A fire burned low in a black marble fireplace. Large windows faced the lake, but the curtains were half drawn, turning the water into a gray strip of light. Cole Maddox stood behind a wide desk reading a file. No tie. White shirt open at the throat. Sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing black tattoos that curled over his skin like smoke made permanent. He looked up. Avery. Her name in his mouth sounded like he had been expecting her long before last night. She walked straight to the desk and slapped the contract down. "You bought my month." Cole closed the file. "I bought your company's availability. You bought my name." His gaze dropped to the contract, then returned to her face. "I requested you. You sent men to my office. I sent Duke, as if that makes it polite." Duke stood near the door, expression unreadable. Cole looked at him. "Leave us." Duke did not move immediately. Cole's eyes hardened. "Now." Duke left, closing the door behind him. The click sounded final. Avery folded her arms because if she did not, he might see her hands shake. "You have 5 minutes to explain why I should not walk out and call the FBI." Cole came around the desk. He moved slowly, but the room seemed to tighten with every step. Because the FBI already knows enough to be dangerous and not enough to be useful. Avery hated the small chill that moved through her. "What does that mean?" "It means there is a meeting at this estate in 3 weeks. 4 families, mine included. Men who have spent the last decade trying not to sit at the same table. Crime families." His eyes did not blink. "Business families. Do not insult me." The corner of his mouth lifted. "There she is." Avery stepped closer, anger carrying her forward. "You do not get to enjoy this. I am not enjoying it. You look like you are." "I look like many things when I am trying not to be impressed." That stole one heartbeat from her, but only one. "I plan weddings and charity galas," she said. "I do not arrange criminal summits. The event is a charity gala. Do the donors know they are decoration gnome? Do the children's hospitals know their fundraiser is a cover for mob diplomacy?" Cole's face tightened. "The donations are real." Avery stared at him. "That is your defense." "It is a fact. It is a disgusting fact." Cole accepted that without flinching, which somehow irritated her more. He moved to the window and looked out at the lake. "Warren Pike is making a move against my family. Last night was not a social visit. He was measuring weakness." Avery remembered the way Warren had looked at her. "And you gave him one." Cole turned. The air changed again. "You think you are my weakness? I think you made him think I was?" Cole's silence told her she was right. Avery's voice softened, despite herself. "Why?" He looked away first. It was quick, but she saw it. "Because men like Pike understand claims better than boundaries. So you claimed me. I protected you. You used me." "Yes." The honesty hit harder than denial would have. Cole walked back to the desk and opened the file he had been reading. He turned it toward her. Inside were staff lists, vendor names, floor plans, shipping receipts, photographs of men in catering uniforms, and a grainy image of Warren Pike stepping out of a car near the Calumet docks. Avery did not touch the papers. Cole tapped one photograph. "The catering company assigned to the Lake Forest Gala is clean on paper. It is owned through 3 shells by Pike." Avery looked at him. "Then cancel them. If I cancel, he knows I know. If he knows I know, he changes tactics. And you want me to keep them busy. I want you to run the floor so well that nobody breathes without you noticing." Avery felt the trap closing, but not from Cole's men now. From the logic. People ignored event staff. They spoke over them. They lied in front of them. They assumed the woman with a clipboard cared only about flowers and napkin folds. They were wrong. Cole watched the realization cross her face. "You see it. I see that you are asking me to stand between your enemies and your basement." His gaze sharpened. "I did not mention the basement." Avery looked at the floor plan. "No, but the East Service Corridor has 3 security doors. No guest access and a wine cellar marked larger than this library. Either you collect bottles the size of cars, or something important is under this house." For a long second, Cole simply stared. Then he laughed. It was quiet at first, surprised out of him, then deeper. Real. The sound changed the room. Avery did not smile. "I am not trying to amuse you." "That is unfortunate," he said. "You are very good at it." "I want terms." The laugh faded, but the interest remained. "Terms. If I do this, I control the event. Full staff approval. Full vendor access. Full guest flow. I need maps. Security protocols. Emergency exits. Service elevators, kitchen access. and names of every armed man who plans to lurk in my sightline. Lurk, yes. Your people lurk. They protect. They lurk while protecting. Cole leaned back against the desk. What else? No visible weapons near guests. No threatening my servers. No changing the floor plan after final approval. No grabbing me in public unless someone is actively shooting. His eyes darkened with amusement. That last rule seems specific. It is based on recent trauma. Anything else? Yes. Unlimited floral budget. Cole blinked. You are serious. If I am building a cover story, it needs to be convincing. Rich people trust expensive flowers. Cole looked at her for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. Avery looked at it. She knew what taking it meant. Not trust, not surrender. Something worse. Participation. Outside the window, the lake moved under the pale morning sun. Inside the library, the fire cracked softly. The world was beautiful, controlled, and full of hidden doors. Avery took his hand. His grip closed around hers, warm and steady. Welcome to the Maddox estate, he said. Avery held his stare. Do not call me yours. Cole's thumb brushed once over her knuckles before he let go. Then, do not make it so tempting. Avery pulled her hand back just as her phone buzzed inside her bag. Mia again. Then Patricia. Then an unknown number. Avery did not look. Cole did. You should answer people who care whether you are alive. The softness in his voice unsettled her more than the threat of the contract. She reached for her phone, but before she could unlock it, a sharp knock struck the library door. Duke entered without waiting. His face had changed. Boss. Cole turned. What Duke looked at Avery, then back at Cole. One of Pike's men just arrived at the south gate with a delivery invoice for the gala. Avery's stomach tightened. Cole's expression emptied of warmth. What delivery? Duke held up a copied slip of paper. Flowers. Avery reached for it before Cole could. The vendor name was wrong. The date was wrong. The signature at the bottom was almost hers. Almost. She stared at the forged letters until the ink seemed to move. Cole stepped beside her. Avery. She looked up. The room had become too quiet again. This time she understood why. Warren Pike was not waiting 3 weeks. He had already started. Avery stood in the library with the forged delivery slip in her hand, staring at the almost perfect copy of her signature. Whoever had written it had studied the loops, the sharp tail on the Y, the slight tilt in the C of Collins. They had gotten close enough to make most people believe it. Most people were not Avery. This is wrong, she said. Cole stepped closer, his shoulder nearly brushing hers. How my signature leans when I'm rushed. This one is too careful. Also, I never approve floral deliveries through the south gate. That entrance is too narrow for refrigerated trucks. Duke looked at her as if she had just solved a murder with a napkin fold. You can tell that from the paper. I can tell it because I planned the event for exactly 9 minutes before your boss turned it into a federal nightmare. Cole took the slip from her hand. What happens to flowers delivered through the wrong gate? They bypass the main receiving check. If your staff follows the fake approval, those boxes go straight into storage. Duke's jaw tightened. Cole looked at him. Search the truck. Duke left without another word. Avery turned toward the window and watched 2 men move across the lawn toward the far drive. The estate looked calm under the morning light. Gray stone, clean hedges, lake water shining beyond the trees. Nothing about it suggested that one delivery truck might be carrying enough danger to turn a charity gala into a funeral. Cole watched her reflection in the glass. You are pale. I am angry. You look pale when you are angry. You do not know what I look like when I am angry. His voice lowered. I am learning. Avery turned and found him closer than she expected. He did not touch her, but somehow that made the space between them feel louder. "This is not a game to me," she said. "It is not a game to me either." "Then stop smiling like you enjoy watching me figure out how bad it is." Cole's expression changed. The trace of amusement vanished. "You think I enjoy this, I think you enjoy control." "Yes," he said. "I do." The honesty disarmed her. Cole looked toward the door where Duke had gone. "But control is what you reach for when everything else has already been taken." Avery wanted to answer, but his voice had shifted. Not softened exactly. It had opened a little, just enough for something old and wounded to show through. Then Duke returned. 3 crates of white roses, he said. 1 crate held guns under the stems. Avery's stomach turned. Cole did not react in any visible way. How many 6 pistols? Suppressors? 2 comm units? No explosives? Avery pressed one hand to the desk. Guns hidden beneath roses. There was something obscene about it. Cole looked at her. "You were right. I hate being right today." Duke placed the fake invoice on the desk. "The driver is one of Pike's men. He says he was paid to deliver and leave." Cole's eyes went flat. "Put him in the guest house." Avery looked up sharply. "Alive." Cole's gaze flicked to her. Duke waited. Avery held Cole's stare. "If he disappears, Pike knows you found him. If he talks, you learn who sent him. If you hurt him, he lies faster." Duke looked annoyed. Cole looked fascinated. After a moment, Cole said, "Alive." Duke left again. Avery exhaled slowly. "That is the first and last time I negotiate prisoner treatment before coffee." Cole moved to the side table and poured coffee from a silver pot into a white cup. He handed it to her without asking how she took it. "Black." She stared at it. "How did you know? You seem like a woman who stopped trusting sugar years ago." Avery did not want to smile. She took the cup anyway. By noon, the library had become a war room. Floor plans covered the long table. Avery marked guest entrances in blue ink staff flow and black emergency paths in red. Cole's men came and went with files, names, photographs, vendor histories, and security reports. They spoke in low voices. Avery spoke over all of them. "No, the valet line cannot overlap with the ambulance access." A man with a shaved head frowned. "There will be no ambulance." Avery looked at him. That is the kind of sentence people say shortly before needing one. Cole, seated at the head of the table, covered his mouth with 2 fingers. Avery pointed her pen toward the east corridor. "This hallway stays clear. No storage. No guards pretending to admire the art. No one blocks it." Duke crossed his arms. "That hallway leads to the private wing. It also leads to the safest exit for elderly donors, unless you want Mrs. Calloway breaking a hip while your men defend a painting. It is a Monet. I do not care if it is the original receipt from God. Move the guards back 6 feet." Duke stared at Cole. Cole said, "Move them." Duke's face tightened, but he wrote it down. By the end of the first day, half of Cole's men hated her. The other half feared her, and all of them listened. Avery should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt watched. Cole watched when she argued with security. He watched when she rewrote the vendor access system. He watched when she stood over his kitchen staff and explained that soup service was not a suggestion. His attention was not loud, but it followed her through the house like low music. That night, Mia arrived with 2 suitcases, 3 chargers, and the expression of a woman prepared to fight organized crime with a spreadsheet. Avery met her in the foyer. "You were not supposed to come." Mia pushed past her. "You told me to stay away." That was adorable. "Mia." "No, you do not get kidnapped by a shipping prince and then expect me to answer emails like normal." Cole appeared at the top of the staircase. Mia looked up. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "You must be the problem," she said. Avery shut her eyes. Cole descended the stairs, amused. And you must be Mia. I must be leaving if anyone aims a weapon at me. No one will aim a weapon at you. Great. Put it in writing. Cole looked at Avery. She stays if she follows security protocol. Mia leaned toward Avery and whispered loudly, He is prettier than I wanted him to be. That is upsetting. Avery felt heat rise in her face. Cole's smirk appeared. I heard that. You were meant to, Mia said. For the first time since morning, Avery laughed. The next week blurred into controlled madness. Avery woke before dawn and worked past midnight. She created duplicate staff lists, color-coded access badges, vendor checkpoints, and a silent signal system for the servers. If a guest moved where they should not, a server offered champagne. If a staff member lacked the right PIN, they were escorted to the laundry hall. If anyone asked too many questions about the wine cellar, they got redirected toward a cigar tasting on the terrace. The lie became elegant. That was the terrifying part. The more beautiful Avery made the gala, the better it concealed the truth beneath it. Cole gave her everything she asked for. Orchids from Miami, linen from New York, a replacement lighting rig flown in overnight, a pianist who had once played for a president, security access that made Duke grind his teeth. But he also gave her arguments, constantly. In the ballroom, 3 days into planning, Avery found him moving one of her service screens. She crossed the room fast. Put that back. Cole looked over his shoulder. It blocks the sightline from the balcony. It hides the staff entrance. I need to see who comes through, and I need the guests not to see waiters carrying trash bags behind a string quartet. His eyes narrowed. I will not let aesthetics create a blind spot, and I will not let paranoia ruin the cover story. The room went still. 2 workers froze with a roll of carpet between them. Cole stepped closer. Paranoia keeps people alive. No. Preparation keeps people alive. Paranoia makes them sloppy. His jaw flexed. Avery knew she had pushed too far. She could feel the room waiting for the punishment. Cole looked at the screen, then at her. Where would you put my man? Avery blinked. What? You heard me. She pointed toward the mirrored alcove near the west arch. There. He can see the entrance reflected in the glass, and the guests will think he is another rich man avoiding conversation. Cole studied the angle, then nodded. Do it her way. The workers moved again. Avery's pulse did not slow. Cole leaned close as he passed her. You are dangerous when you are right, she answered before thinking. You are difficult when you are wrong. He stopped. For one suspended second, she thought he might laugh. Instead, his gaze dropped to her mouth. The air between them changed. Avery forgot the workers, the ballroom, the guns under roses, the fact that this man's world had teeth. Cole lifted his hand, not touching her yet, just near enough that she felt the warmth of his fingers beside her jaw. Then Duke entered. We have a problem. Avery stepped back. Too quickly. Cole's hand fell. His voice turned cold. What problem? One of the temporary servers failed the background check. Name is false. Address is false. Social Security number belongs to a dead man in Ohio. Avery reached for the file. What department dessert service? Mia, who had been arranging place cards nearby, muttered, It is always dessert. People underestimate cake. Avery scanned the list. There are 3 names entered together, same agency, same handwriting. They are a unit. Cole looked at Duke. Find them. Avery shook her head. No. Cole turned to her. No. If you grab them now, Pike knows we caught them. Let them think they are still inside. Duke stared. That is insane. It is bait, Avery said. Cole watched her quietly. What are you suggesting? Give them low-access jobs. Keep them away from the west side, away from the wine cellar, away from power panels. Put them under Mia's schedule. Mia looked up. Excuse me, you will bury them in meaningless tasks. Mia smiled slowly. I can do that. Cole looked between them. What does that mean? Mia's smile widened. It means, by gala night, those men will hate garnish trays more than prison. Duke did not look convinced, but Cole did. Do it, he said. Later that evening, Avery escaped to the greenhouse because it was the only warm place in the estate where nobody asked her about seating revisions or murder logistics. The glass walls were fogged from the inside. Rows of white roses grew beneath soft lights, their petals luminous against the dark. Cole was already there. He stood near the far bench with his sleeves rolled up, one hand resting lightly against a bloom. Avery stopped. I did not know this was occupied. It is a greenhouse, not a bathroom. She almost smiled. Are those for the gala? No. His answer was quiet. Avery walked closer, careful between the rows. For someone else. My mother. The words settled gently. Avery looked at the roses again. She liked white. She said red roses were too loud. White roses knew how to keep secrets. Avery stood beside him. What was her name? Cole did not answer right away. Evelyn. The name softened his face in a way Avery had not seen before. She died when I was 19, he said. Car bomb outside a restaurant in Bridgeport. It was meant for my father. Avery looked at him. I am sorry. People say that because they have to. I do not have to say anything. He turned toward her. No, you usually don't. Avery accepted that. For a while they stood in the humid quiet with the roses between them and the lake, dark beyond the glass. My father loved power more than he loved caution, Cole said. Pike knew that. Everyone knew that. My mother paid for what men like them called business. Avery's voice was soft. And you took over. I buried her on a Tuesday. By Friday, 3 men tried to split the docks between them. What did you do? His eyes met hers. You already know. She did. That was the problem. She could see the boy who buried his mother and the man who became feared enough that nobody tried again. They stood in the same body. One did not excuse the other, but it made looking away harder. Avery reached toward a rose, then stopped. May I? Cole nodded. She touched one petal with her fingertip. My mom liked grocery store carnations, she said. The ugly pink ones. She said expensive flowers made people nervous. Is she gone? Avery nodded. Cancer. I was 22. Cole's gaze moved over her face, quieter now. Is that why you build perfect rooms? Avery swallowed. Maybe. When someone is sick, everything becomes ugly and out of order. Hospitals, bills, people whispering in kitchens. I think I liked events because for a few hours I could make a world behave. Cole stepped closer. And does it? No. Her laugh was small, but sometimes it looks like it does. He lifted his hand and brushed a loose strand of hair from her cheek. The touch was light, almost careful. Avery should have stepped back. She did not. Cole's thumb hovered near her jaw. You should be afraid of me. I am. His eyes darkened. But not enough I have not decided yet. He leaned closer. The scent of cedar wood and cold air wrapped around her. The greenhouse seemed to shrink around them. Then Avery's phone rang. She jumped. Cole stepped back, jaw tight. The screen showed an unknown number. Avery answered slowly. Hello. A woman's voice came through, calm and precise. Miss Collins, my name is Special Agent Rachel Sloan. We need to talk about Cole Maddox." Avery's eyes lifted to Cole. His face had gone expressionless. Agent Sloan continued, "You are standing too close to a man who turns people into leverage." Avery looked at Cole's hand, still half raised between them. Then she ended the call. Cole's voice was low. "What did she say?" Avery put the phone into her pocket. "She said, 'I am leverage.'" Cole looked away first. She is not wrong. The admission cut deeper than any denial. Avery stepped back. "Was that your plan?" "No. But it happened anyway." His silence was answer enough. The days after that were colder between them. Avery still worked. Cole still watched. They spoke about routes, schedules, staffing, security, and Pike, but the almost kiss in the greenhouse stayed between them like a locked door. Neither one opened. Agent Sloan approached Avery 2 days later outside a bakery in town. Avery had slipped out with Mia to pick up pastries for a donor tasting, though Duke followed from across the street like a shadow with shoulders. Agent Sloan was in a gray coat, hair pulled back, eyes clear and tired. "You should not go back there," Sloan said. Mia stiffened beside Avery. Avery held the pastry box tighter. "I am working an event. You are helping Cole Maddox host a criminal summit. I am helping prevent people from getting killed at what is legally a charity gala." Sloan studied her. "Is that what he told you?" "It is what I can prove." The agent stepped closer. "When we move, anyone inside that house becomes part of the case. Staff, guests, you." Mia whispered, "Avery." Avery's throat tightened. "What do you want from me?" "Floor plans, staff lists, security weaknesses." Avery gave a humorless laugh. "You want me to betray the man who may be the only reason Pike does not shoot up the room." Sloane's face did not change. "I want you to understand that Cole Maddox is not a love story. He is a file with bodies attached." The words stayed with Avery all the way back to the estate. That night she found Cole in the library. She placed the bakery box on his desk. "The FBI wants me to give them your floor plans." Cole looked up. "What did you say I said no?" Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe. Fear, definitely. "You should have said yes," he said. Avery laughed softly. "You are impossible. I am serious. So am I." He stood. "If Sloan approached you in public, Pike may know you matter. You made sure everyone knew that at the gala." Cole flinched so slightly most people would miss it. Avery did not. "I know," he said. His voice was rougher now. "That was my mistake. And what am I now?" He came around the desk. "Avery." "No. Tell me. Am I your planner? Your witness? Your shield? Your weakness?" Cole stopped close enough that she had to tilt her chin to keep his gaze. "You are the one person in this house I do not know how to move like a piece on a board." Her breath caught. "That is not an answer." "It is the only honest one I have." Outside, thunder rolled over the lake. The library lights flickered once, then steadied. Avery looked at him, at the man with blood in his history and grief in his greenhouse, at the criminal who had bought her time and the son who still grew roses for his mother. "I do not want to need protection," she whispered. Cole reached for her hand, slowly giving her time to refuse. She did not. His fingers closed around hers. "Then stand beside me," he said. "Not behind me." The final week arrived under heavy clouds. The estate filled with movement. Florists carried orchids through the foyer. Electricians adjusted chandeliers. Chefs tested sauces in the West kitchen. Mia buried the suspicious temporary servers under endless inventory checks, garnish counts, and napkin-folding revisions, until one of them looked ready to confess just to escape. Avery controlled all of it. She moved through the house with a radio clipped to her waist and a pencil twisted into her hair. Cole's men no longer questioned her when she redirected them. Duke still looked annoyed, but he handed her updated security reports without being asked. The gala became real, too real. On the afternoon before the event, Avery stood alone in the empty ballroom. The chandeliers were lit, tables dressed, flowers perfect. The mirrored walls reflected a room designed to make powerful people feel safe. Cole entered quietly behind her. "You did it," he said. Avery did not turn. Not yet. He stood beside her. For once, neither of them argued. The room glowed around them like a beautiful lie. Avery looked at the silver pins laid out for staff check, and each one polished and numbered. "If one person gets through without a pin, we have a problem." Cole nodded. "No one gets through." She glanced at him. "You sound confident." "I have you." The words landed softly. Too softly. Avery looked away before he could see what they did to her. Outside, the first black clouds moved over Lake Michigan. The wind pressed against the windows, low and restless. Mia's voice crackled through Avery's earpiece. "First vendor truck just reached the front gate." Avery touched the comm. "Copy. Start check-in." Cole looked at her. No smirk now. No game. Only the steady, dangerous focus of a man standing at the edge of war. Avery straightened her blazer, lifted her clipboard, and walked toward the doors as the estate began to fill with flowers, music secrets, and men who had come dressed for charity while carrying violence under their skin. Avery walked toward the front doors with her clipboard in one hand and Cole Maddox beside her, and for the first time since she had entered his world, the estate felt less like a house and more like a loaded gun. The first vendor truck rolled through the gate under a sky the color of bruised steel. Wind came off Lake Michigan in cold breaths, pressing against the trees and rattling the tall windows. Outside, men in dark suits checked plates, seals, badges, trunks, glove compartments, and delivery manifests. Inside, Avery's staff moved with quiet speed, carrying flowers, linens, glassware, and trays of silver place cards through the marble foyer. Everything looked elegant. That was the point. Avery stood at the main check-in table and watched each staff member receive a silver pin. Every pin had a number. Every number had a name. Every name had a station. No one entered without being touched by the system she had built. Mia sat beside her with a laptop-open headset tucked beneath her hair. Florals cleared, Mia said. Lighting cleared. Quartet cleared. Dessert team is already complaining, which means they are emotionally stable. Avery checked a name off her list. Temporary servers. Mia's eyes flicked to the screen. Our 3 little ghosts are here. I put them on garnish prep napkin refold and decoy champagne inventory. Avery glanced across the foyer. 3 men in white service jackets stood near the kitchen corridor looking irritated. One had blonde hair cut too short. One had a thick neck and a small scar beneath his left eye. The third kept touching his cuff as if checking for something that was not there. Duke stood behind them like a wall. Avery lifted her radio. Duke, keep eyes on service staff 12, 19, and 24. Duke's voice came back. Already on them. Cole stood near the staircase, speaking quietly with 2 men Avery had only seen in photographs. Heads of families. Men whose suits cost as much as cars and whose smiles did not reach their eyes. They looked at Cole with a mixture of respect and calculation. They looked at Avery like she was part of the furniture. She preferred that. Invisible meant useful. Then Cole looked over the heads of everyone else and found her. The contact lasted only a second, but it steadied something inside her that she did not want to admit had been shaking. Mia noticed. Oh no, she said under her breath. Avery did not look at her. Do not start. I am absolutely starting. You have eye contact now. We are coordinating a high-risk event. You are glowing at a criminal. I am sweating through silk. You can do both. Avery gave her a look. Mia smiled sweetly and returned to the laptop. Guests began arriving at 7. The Maddox estate transformed as darkness settled over the lake. Black cars glided up the circular drive. Valets opened doors. Women in jewel-toned gowns stepped onto the stone walkway with careful smiles. Men in tuxedos adjusted cuffs and checked their phones before handing themselves over to the night. The official event was the Callaway Children's Winter Benefit, a private extension of the hotel gala from weeks before. Hospital donors, city officials, judges, foundation board members, and wealthy families entered beneath warm lights and fresh orchids, all believing they had been invited to one of the most exclusive charity evenings in Illinois. They saw candlelight. They saw white flowers. They saw a string quartet beneath the balcony. They did not see the armed men behind paneled doors. They did not see the cameras hidden in the molding. They did not know that beneath the wine cellar behind 2 reinforced doors and a biometric lock, the leaders of 4 syndicates were preparing to sit at one table. Avery moved through the ballroom like the room belonged to her. Table 6 needs water. Move the senator away from the fireplace. Tell the kitchen no plates leave before I clear the first course. Why is there a media intern near the West Arch escort him back to the press area? She did not raise her voice. She did not have to anymore. Cole's men obeyed her now because they had seen what happened when they did not. Her staff obeyed her because they trusted her. The guests obeyed her because she smiled like refusal had never occurred to her. At 7:40, Cole approached from the corridor leading to the private wing. He had changed into a black tuxedo. Clean lines, white shirt, no tie, only a black bow undone at his collar, like he had already grown bored of pretending to be civilized. He stopped beside her near the edge of the ballroom. "You look like you are about to conquer a country," Avery said. He looked down at her sapphire gown. "You look like you already did." Avery hated how easily the compliment entered her blood. "Do not distract me. I have been trying not to. You are failing." His mouth curved, but his eyes remained sharp. "The meeting begins in 20 minutes. Avery's grip tightened on the clipboard. "All guest traffic has been redirected east. The cigar lounge covers noise from the lower corridor. The West Service Hall is closed to everyone except cleared staff. Mia is tracking pins. Duke has the fake servers contained." Cole studied her face. "You are calm." "No, I am organized. That is your version of calm." A waiter passed too close. Avery turned her head. "Marcus, not through that arch. Use the rear service lane." The waiter corrected course instantly. Cole watched him go. "I have men who take longer to follow orders. That is because they are afraid of you. My staff is afraid of disappointing me. Stronger motive." Cole leaned slightly closer. "Should I be afraid of disappointing you?" Avery turned to him. For a second, the ballroom sounds faded. Candlelight moved over his face, softening nothing and revealing too much. "Yes," she said. Cole's expression shifted. Not amusement. Something warmer. Then Duke's voice crackled in Avery's earpiece. "Boss. Miss Collins. Family cars arriving through North Gate." Cole's face closed. He looked toward the private corridor. Avery felt the shift in him, the man disappearing behind the name. "Go," she said. His eyes stayed on her. "If anything feels wrong, you call Duke. I call the person closest to the problem." "Avery." She softened just enough to be dangerous. "I know." Cole's hand brushed hers, hidden between the folds of her gown and his jacket. A touch so small no one else saw it. Then he walked away. At 8, the real meeting began beneath the house. Above it, Avery kept the lie alive. The first course went out on time. The quartet shifted into a slower arrangement. Donors laughed over roasted pear salad and chilled white wine. The governor posed for a photo beside the foundation chair. A retired judge asked Avery whether the orchids were imported. Miami Avery said with a perfect smile. He nodded as if this mattered deeply. Mia's voice entered her ear. Ghost 1 is still in garnish prep. Ghost 2 is counting napkins like he wants to murder Cotton. Ghost 3 just asked to use the restroom. Avery's eyes moved across the room. Which one is Ghost 3? Thick neck, scar under eye. Avery found him near the service doors. He stood beside a tray cart looking toward the west hallway. Who is escorting him? Duke assigned Noah. Noah was one of Cole's younger guards. Careful, polite, and built like he could lift a piano. Avery watched as Noah approached the server. The man smiled, shrugged, and followed him away from the kitchen corridor. Something about the smile bothered her. It was too easy. Avery touched her earpiece. Mia, pull camera on West Service Hall. 1 second. Avery kept moving through the guests, nodding, smiling, listening to every wrong sound. A glass broke near table 9. Harmless. A woman laughed too loudly near the bar. Drunk, not dangerous. The wind struck the windows. Weather not threat. Mia came back. West Hall camera is glitching. Avery stopped. What do you mean glitching? I mean it is showing me an empty hallway from 6 minutes ago. Avery's pulse sharpened. Looped footage. Mia's voice lowered. Yes. Avery lifted the radio. Duke, where is Noah? No answer. Duke. Static. Then Duke's voice hard. Noah is not responding. Avery looked toward the ballroom doors. The music continued. Forks touched plates. Candle flames trembled. She saw Cole's world in pieces now. A private corridor. A fake restroom request. A looped camera. 3 men hidden in service uniforms. A meeting beneath the wine cellar. Lock down the west corridor quietly, Avery said. Duke answered. Already moving. Avery turned to Mia. Find Ghost 1 and Ghost 2. Mia typed fast. Ghost 1 still garnish prep. Wait. No. His pin is there, but he is not. Avery's stomach dropped. He removed the pin. Ghost 2 too. Across the ballroom, the blonde server stepped through a side doorway carrying a champagne tray. No pin. No irritation now. His face was empty. Avery saw his hand shift beneath the tray cloth. Time narrowed. The server moved toward the center of the room, toward the chandelier, toward the sightline that opened cleanly to the private corridor. Avery did not think. She moved. A waiter passed with a tray of red wine. Avery grabbed the edge of it, spun, and let the tray fly. The glasses sailed through the air and shattered across the blonde server's chest. He staggered back, tray dropping from his hand. A black pistol hit the marble floor. For half a second, no one understood. Then the second man appeared near the east arch and drew his weapon. Avery screamed, "Get down!" The ballroom erupted. Gunfire cracked through the music. The chandelier above table 3 burst in a rain of crystal. Guests fell from chairs. Someone screamed Avery's name. The quartet scattered. A cello toppled strings, wailing as it hit the floor. Avery dropped behind a stone column as bullets tore through floral arrangements and punched holes into the paneled wall. Her radio was already in her hand. Lockdown protocol. East safe rooms now. Mia moved guests through service pantry. Duke shooters on ballroom floor. At least 2 visible. 1 unpinned blonde near Champagne Tower. 1 at East Arch. 3rd unknown. Mia's voice came back shaking but clear. Copy. Moving guests. Avery crawled across broken glass toward table 4, where an older woman lay frozen beneath a chair, hands over her ears. A man beside her was bleeding from the shoulder, not arterial, but enough to panic everyone near him. A bullet struck the wall above Avery's head. Plaster dust fell into her hair. She grabbed the woman's wrist. "Look at me," the woman sobbed. "I can't." "Yes, you can. Crawl when I pull." Avery dragged her toward the bar, where 2 servers were pushing guests through the hidden staff passage. Mia stood at the doorway, face white, waving people forward with one hand while holding a heavy silver candlestick in the other. "Avery," Mia shouted. "Keep moving them! You are bleeding!" Avery looked down. A thin line of blood ran across her forearm where glass had cut her. Not enough to count. Another burst of gunfire shattered the mirror behind the bar. Guests screamed and ducked lower. Avery lifted her radio. "Kill the ballroom lights." Mia hesitated. "What now?" The lights went out. The room plunged into darkness except for candles, emergency strips along the floor, and the cold flash of gunfire. Avery knew the room better than the shooters did. She had placed every table, every screen, every floral column, every service lane. Servers she called into the staff channel, voice low and steady. "Guide guests along the floor lights. East wall only. Do not stand. Do not run. Hands on shoulders." Avery heard movement in the dark. Controlled. Terrified, but controlled. A body slammed into a table near the champagne tower. Cole's men were engaging now, shadows moving with lethal precision. Duke's voice cut through her earpiece. "Shooter 1 down. Shooter 2 moving toward West Arch." West Arch. The private corridor. The meeting below. Avery saw him, a shape slipping through smoke and candlelight. She grabbed a fallen champagne bottle by the neck and ran low behind the line of tables. Her feet screamed in her heels. Glass bit through the satin at the hem of her gown. She reached the service screen just as the shooter passed. Avery swung the bottle with both hands. It struck the back of his wrist. The gun fired into the ceiling. The man cursed and turned. Avery stumbled back, heart punching against her ribs. Then a hand seized her arm and yanked her hard into the shadow of the corridor. She hit a solid chest and fought before the scent reached her. Cedarwood. Smoke. Coal. His hand covered her mouth for half a second, not to silence her forever, only to stop the scream. "It's me," he said against her ear. She pulled his hand down. "You scared me." His eyes blazed in the dim light. "Good. Maybe something finally does." He had a gun in his right hand. His tuxedo jacket was gone. His shirt sleeve was torn at the shoulder. There was blood on his collar, but Avery could not tell if it was his. She reached for him without thinking. "Are you hit? No. Are you lying?" His mouth tightened. "That is my question." A bullet struck the wall near them, showering dust across his hair. Cole pushed her behind him so fast her back hit the paneled wall. "Stay here." "No." His head snapped toward her. "Avery, third shooter is still moving. He used a fake restroom request. He may know the lower access route." Cole's expression went deadly still. "How I do not know, but he does." Duke's voice came through. "Boss West Hall compromised. Noah is down. Alive." Third man moving toward cellar stairs. Cole looked toward the corridor, then at Avery. For one raw second, she saw the choice tear through him. The meeting below, his family, the other syndicate heads, the power structure that held his world together. And her. Avery understood before he spoke. "Go," she said. "No. Cole, go. I am not leaving you in the open." She grabbed his shirt front. "You said stand beside you, not behind you. Then listen to me. I know the floor. I know the route. You need me." He looked furious enough to shake the walls. Then he handed her a small black radio from his pocket. "Stay on this channel. Stay behind me. If I say down, you drop." Avery nodded. They moved into the west corridor together. The house had changed. The beautiful estate was now smoke alarms, distant screams, and flashes of movement behind doorways. Cole moved like a predator released from a cage, silent and fast, gun raised. Avery followed close, one hand lifting the torn edge of her gown, the other gripping the radio. They reached the service intersection near the wine cellar. The third shooter stood at the stairwell door, forcing the keypad open with a device attached to the lock. Cole fired once. The man jerked back, but not down. A vest. He raised his weapon. Cole shoved Avery to the floor and fired again. The corridor exploded with noise. Avery hit the marble hard. Pain flashed through her hip. She rolled behind a console table as the shooter returned fire. Wood splintered. A vase burst above her water and white roses spilling over the floor. White roses again. Avery saw the device on the keypad blinking red. Almost through. She looked at the wall panel beside her. During planning, she had argued with Duke about emergency systems. He had hated giving her access. She had insisted. Now she reached beneath the console table and found the manual override box. Locked. Of course. Cole and the shooter exchanged fire down the corridor. Cole's shoulder hit the wall. He grunted. Avery's heart stopped. You're hit. Stay down. That meant yes. Avery searched the floor. Her clipboard was gone, her pen gone, her radio still clipped to her hand. She ripped the silver pin from her dress. The staff pin was thin, sharp, and numbered. She jammed it into the override lock. It slipped. Again. A bullet shattered the wall lamp above her. Again. The lock clicked. Avery yanked the panel open and slammed her palm onto the red lockdown switch. Steel shutters dropped over the cellar stairwell door. The shooter cursed and turned toward her. Cole rose from the wall. His face was colder than anything Avery had ever seen. He fired twice. The shooter fell before he could lift his gun. The corridor rang with sudden silence. Avery stayed crouched by the panel, breathing hard. Cole lowered his weapon and turned toward her. Blood ran down his left arm, dark against the white shirt. Avery stood too fast and nearly slipped on rosewater. She caught his wrist. You are bleeding. It grazed me. You do not get to decide that casually. You shut the stairwell. You got shot. Grazed. I swear to God, Cole. He looked at her, then really looked, and the cold violence in his eyes cracked under something much more human. Fear. Not for himself. For her. His hand lifted to her face. His thumb brushed dust from her cheek, then stopped at the blood on her forearm. I told you to stay behind me. I was behind you. You picked a lock during a gunfight. You hired me for problem solving. His breath left him in something almost like a laugh, but it broke before becoming sound. Duke thundered into the corridor with 3 men behind him. Clear Duke said, Ballroom shooters are down. Guests are contained. FBI is at the outer gate. Cole's face hardened again, but his hand did not leave Avery's cheek. Meeting Secure Duke said, The families are locked below. No breach. Mia's voice crackled through Avery's earpiece. Avery, answer me, or I am committing crimes. Avery pressed the earpiece. I am here. Mia exhaled so hard the comm crackled. Guests are in safe rooms. 2 serious injuries, both stable. Patricia is praying in a coat closet. I support her. Avery closed her eyes. Good. Keep everyone inside until law enforcement clears entry. Cole's gaze sharpened. You are not speaking to law enforcement. Avery opened her eyes. Cole. They will use you. They will ask what happened in a room full of donors and bullet holes. I am the event coordinator. I cannot vanish. Duke looked toward the front of the house. Boss Sloan is leading the entry team. The name moved through the corridor like cold air. Cole's jaw tightened. Avery remembered Agent Sloan outside the bakery. The calm warning, Cole Maddox is not a love story. He is a file with bodies attached. The front of the estate echoed with distant shouting. Federal agents. Avery could hear them now. Cole stepped closer. There is a passage under the old wine storage. It leads to the boathouse. Avery stared at him. You are running. I am protecting what is below this house. And me. His answer came too fast. Especially you. The words struck harder than gunfire. For a moment, Avery could not move. Around them, men carried bodies, alarms pulsed softly, and the scent of smoke mixed with crushed roses. Cole stood before her with blood on his sleeve and murder in his eyes, yet his hand on her face was almost gentle. She had spent weeks telling herself she was trapped. Tonight she had moved through fire because she chose to. A loud crash sounded from the foyer. A voice shouted through a speaker. "Federal agents. Hands where we can see them." Duke turned toward Cole. "Now." Cole looked at Avery, and this time he did not grab her. He held out his hand. The ruined corridor seemed to hold its breath around them. Avery looked at his bloodied palm, then toward the ballroom where her guests were hidden toward the front doors where the FBI was coming toward the steel door that had almost become a grave. She placed her hand in his. Cole's fingers closed around hers. Together they moved through the smoke as the sirens reached the house, and every choice Avery had avoided came walking in behind them. Avery's hand disappeared inside Cole's as they moved through the smoke. The estate groaned around them. Alarms pulsed in the walls. Somewhere behind them, guests cried behind locked safe room doors. Men shouted in the foyer. Boots struck marble. Radios crackled with federal codes and clipped commands. The beautiful lie Avery had built was coming apart one shattered chandelier at a time. Cole did not run at first. He moved fast, but controlled, pulling Avery through a side corridor, hidden behind a velvet service curtain. Duke came behind them with two men, one holding pressure against Cole's wounded arm, though Cole ignored him with the stubbornness of a man who had spent his life treating pain like background noise. Avery did not ignore it. Blood had soaked through his sleeve and run down to his wrist. Some of it was on her fingers now, warm and slick beneath his grip. "You need a doctor," she whispered. "I need you quiet. I can multitask." Cole glanced back at her, and even through the smoke she saw the ghost of a smile. "You are impossible. You are bleeding on a custom carpet." "It is my carpet. That does not make it better." Duke muttered behind them. "I am going to miss when everyone was afraid of him." Avery almost laughed, but a shout from the foyer killed it. "Clear the East Hall." Agent Rachel Sloane's voice cut through the house. Calm, sharp, close. Cole stopped. Avery collided lightly with his back, and his hand instantly released hers to steady her by the waist. The contact was automatic now. Protective, possessive, too familiar for a woman who had met him because of a mistake. Duke stepped forward, gun low. Cole lifted two fingers. No. Duke froze. Avery held her breath as flashlight beams crossed the far end of the corridor. Shadows moved across the wall. Federal agents passed by the open arch, unaware that 5 people stood behind a curtain of smoke and velvet, close enough to hear the leather creak on their gloves. Avery could see Sloane through the haze. Gray coat, hair pulled tight, weapon raised. Her face had no panic in it, only certainty. For a terrifying second, Avery wanted to call out. Not because she trusted Sloane, because Sloane represented a door back to the world Avery understood. Police reports, witness statements, lawyers, rules, consequences with names and forms. Then Cole's thumb brushed once against her waist. Not pulling, not forcing, only there. Avery looked up at him. His face was turned toward the agent's expression carved from stone, but his eyes were not on Sloane. They were on Avery's reflection in the dark glass of a framed painting across the hall. He was waiting to see what she would choose. That frightened her more than being dragged ever had. Sloane's voice sounded again. "Check the West Service corridor. Maddox may still be inside." The agents moved on. Duke exhaled first. Cole's hand dropped from Avery's waist. "This way." He pressed a hidden latch behind a wall panel near the old library entrance. The panel opened inward without a sound, revealing a narrow stone staircase descending into darkness. Avery stared at it. "Of course you have a secret passage." Cole looked at her. "You sound disappointed." I am exhausted by how committed your house is to being illegal." Duke actually smiled just once. Cole guided Avery inside. The panel closed behind them, sealing away the smoke sirens and shouting. The silence on the other side was immediate and heavy. Small amber lights glowed along the stone wall. The staircase curved downward, cold air rising from below. Avery's heels clicked against the steps. Cole was ahead of her now, one hand on the wall, his wounded arm held stiffly at his side. The blood had slowed, but not enough. Every few steps, his breathing changed. Avery noticed. Of course she noticed. Stop. Cole kept walking. Avery stopped anyway. Because she stopped, Duke and the two guards stopped behind her. Cole turned at the next landing. Avery. No. Sit down. We do not have time. You lose enough blood, you will have plenty of time because you will be unconscious. His eyes narrowed. I have been shot before. That is not a medical qualification. Duke cleared his throat. She is right. Cole's gaze shifted to him. Duke looked almost pained by the betrayal. She usually is. Avery stepped down to Cole, opened her small evening bag, and pulled out a folded linen handkerchief from the emergency kit she had packed herself. Cole watched her with disbelief. You brought a medical kit to a gala? I brought a sewing kit. Blister pads, stain wipes, safety pins, pain relievers, breath mints, and 3 bandages. Event planning is war without the honesty. She tore the fabric wider with her teeth and wrapped it around his upper arm, tight enough to make him hiss through his nose. Good, she said. Still alive enough to complain. His eyes stayed on her face. The stairwell was narrow. Too narrow. She could feel the heat of him, the danger of him, the blood of him. The world above them had collapsed into law and violence, but down here there was only stone breath, and the way his gaze seemed to hold on to her like a confession. You should have stayed with Sloane, he said. Avery tied the knot hard. Cole flinched. Maybe do not insult the woman currently stopping your arm from leaking. I am serious. I know. That is your most annoying tone. He caught her wrist before she could step back. His grip was gentle this time, almost uncertain. She could protect you from this. Avery looked at his hand around her wrist. No, she could put me in a different kind of cage. Cole's jaw tightened. You think I am a cage? I think you are a locked door with a beautiful handle. His mouth moved not quite a smile. That is very specific. I have been inside your house for weeks. I am inspired. For a moment he simply looked at her. Then he released her wrist. Come on. They continued down. The passage opened into an old wine storage room beneath the estate. The ceiling was low, the walls lined with empty racks and dust-darkened bottles. Somewhere nearby, machinery hummed behind concrete. The hidden world below the beautiful house was colder, older, and much less forgiving. Avery heard voices beyond a steel door. Men arguing, the syndicate heads, the meeting Cole had risked everything to protect. Duke moved to the door and spoke into a keypad. A camera blinked above them. Locks opened with heavy metallic clicks. Inside was a reinforced room that looked nothing like a gangster fantasy, and everything like a bunker built by men who expected betrayal as weather. Long table, gray walls, monitors, files stacked neatly. 4 older men stood or sat around the table, all in expensive suits, all furious. One of them pointed at Cole. Pike hit us under your roof. Cole entered like his arm was not bleeding and federal agents were not upstairs, and failed. Another man slammed a hand on the table. Because your staff was compromised. Avery stepped in behind Cole before Duke could stop her. Because Pike expected you to underestimate staff. Every man in the room looked at her. Silence spread. One of them, a heavy man with silver rings and a red face, laughed once. And who are you? Avery was filthy, bleeding at the forearm, dress-torn hair falling loose from its pins. She looked like a woman who had crawled through glass and was in no mood to be dismissed. "The reason your basement door is still closed." Cole turned slightly toward her. Not surprised. Proud. That was worse. The man with rings looked her over. "You expect us to believe a party planner stopped a hit?" Avery stepped closer to the table. "No. I expect you to understand that the person who controls guest flow also controls access. The person who checks staff pins sees the missing ones first. The person who knows every hallway can tell when a camera is looped. Pike did not fail because your guns were bigger. He failed because he thought flowers and floor plans were beneath him." No one laughed now. Cole's voice was quiet. "Pike sent 3 men through catering and 1 through floral receiving." Avery caught both. The oldest man at the table, lean with white hair and eyes like black glass, studied her. "Your woman is sharp, Maddox." Avery turned her head. "I am not his woman." Cole looked at her. The room waited. He said no. "She is not." Avery felt that more than she expected. Then Cole added, "She is the only reason any of you are standing here, so speak to her with respect." The old man's mouth twitched. Respect from men like that did not look like kindness. It looked like recalculation. Duke approached Cole with a phone. "Pike is claiming no involvement. Says the shooters were rogue contractors." Cole took the phone, glanced at the screen, and handed it back. "Of course he is." The man with rings spat. "Then we answer tonight." Avery's stomach tightened. Cole noticed. He looked around the table. "No. You want to let this stand? I want Pike alive long enough to explain how he got my lower access route." One of the men sat back. "You think there is a leak?" "I know there is." The room changed. Suspicion moved like smoke. Avery looked at the floor plans spread across the table. Not hers. Older ones. Security diagrams. Access maps. The route the third shooter had taken was marked in red. Something caught her eye. A service corridor label had been altered. Not recently. The ink was printed, but the spacing was off. Her brain saw it the way it saw a crooked centerpiece from across a ballroom. "Who gave these maps out?" she asked. The men looked at her again. Duke answered. "Internal security only." Avery moved closer despite the cold stares. "This map is wrong." Cole stood beside her. "How the west stairwell is labeled as 11 feet from the wine storage entrance. It is not. It is 9 feet. I measured it for floral load-in." This map was edited from an older version of the house before the wall was moved. Duke took the paper. "That renovation happened 8 years ago." Cole's expression went dead calm. "My father was alive 8 years ago." The old man with white hair said, "Who had access?" Then Cole did not answer immediately. Avery saw the answer before he said it. People who had been trusted before Cole became feared. People old enough to know the house before the changes. People close enough to sell memory, not paperwork. Duke's phone buzzed. He read the message and looked up. "The driver from the flower delivery is gone." Cole's eyes turned lethal. Duke's voice hardened. "Guard outside guest house is dead." The bunker went silent. Avery felt the chill of it reach her bones. The leak was not a theory anymore. It was walking somewhere above them. A crash sounded through the ceiling. Muffled, distant, but clear. Then Agent Sloane's voice came over a speaker from the estate security feed. "Cole Maddox, this is the FBI. The house is surrounded. Come out with your hands visible." One of the syndicate heads cursed. Duke looked at Cole. "We need the boathouse route now." Cole looked at the monitors. Federal agents moved through the foyer ballroom and corridors Avery had designed. Guests were being escorted out under blankets. Patricia stood near an agent crying into a tissue. Mia sat on a bench with her arms crossed, refusing to move while two agents questioned her. Avery stepped toward the screen. "Mia." Cole followed her gaze. "She will be safe. She is in your house after a shooting. Nobody here is safe." Duke's radio crackled. "Movement near old storage. Unknown hostile." Cole's head snapped toward the door. The lights flickered, then went out. Emergency red lights washed the bunker in blood-colored shadow. Gunfire erupted in the hall outside. Duke shoved the door shut and locked it, but not before one of Cole's men fell backward into the room, clutching his throat. Another pulled him away from the doorway. The syndicate heads drew weapons. Avery dropped behind the table as Cole moved in front of her. "Stay down." She looked beneath the table and saw the lower wall vent near the floor. During planning, Duke had complained about old utility tunnels near the wine storage. Avery had asked for the maintenance route in case of a power issue. He had given it to her while muttering that she was going to be the death of him. She crawled toward the wall. Cole saw her. "Avery, I said I know the floor." "Avery." She pulled the vent cover loose with both hands. One screw stuck. She grabbed a fallen letter opener from the table and twisted until it gave. The opening was narrow but enough. This tunnel connects to the service lift behind the boathouse corridor. Duke stared. "How do you know that?" "You gave me the maintenance map. I gave you 17 maps. I read them." Cole looked between the blocked door and the tunnel. Avery knew what he was thinking. He could fight through the hallway. He could stay and protect the men who kept his empire standing. He could send her away. She reached for his hand. "No more moving me like a piece on a board." His eyes locked on hers. "Then move with me." The door shook under impact. They went through the vent. Duke led first, then the syndicate heads, cursing in expensive shoes. Avery crawled behind Cole because his wounded arm made every movement harder, though he would rather be shot again than admit it. The tunnel smelled of dust metal and lake damp. The red emergency glow faded behind them until they moved through near darkness. Halfway through, Cole stopped breathing evenly. Avery touched his back. "Cole, I am fine. You are not. Keep moving." She put her mouth near his ear, voice low and fierce. "If you die in a maintenance tunnel after surviving a ballroom attack, I will never forgive you." A rough sound left him. Almost laughter. Motivating. Good. They reached the service lift. Duke forced the outer panel open and cold lake air spilled in. The boathouse corridor lay ahead, narrow and stone-lined, leading toward a private dock hidden below the estate. Outside, waves slapped wood. Sirens echoed from the front of the property, warped by distance and wind. Avery emerged from the tunnel with dust on her dress and blood dried on her arm. Cole came out behind her, paler now. Too pale. She grabbed his face between her hands. "Look at me." His eyes focused on hers. "I am looking. You are going to stay conscious." "Still giving orders?" "Yes." His hand covered one of hers. "Good." Duke opened the final door. Beyond it, the lake spread black and silver under the storm. A sleek boat waited at the dock, engine low lights off. Rain had begun to fall in thin, cold needles. The syndicate heads moved toward it. Cole did not. He stood at the edge of the boathouse looking back toward the estate. Avery knew what he saw. His home. His mother's roses. Her ruined ballroom. The FBI inside. Pike's betrayal. The old ghosts his father had left buried in the walls. Sloane's voice came from behind them. "Do not move." Avery turned. Agent Sloane stood at the far end of the corridor, weapon raised, 2 agents behind her. Rain blew in from a side opening and dampened her coat. Her eyes landed on Avery first. "Step away from him." Cole's body shifted in front of Avery. Avery stepped out from behind him. Cole's voice was a warning. "Avery." She ignored it. Sloane kept her weapon steady. "You do not have to go with him." Avery's heart slammed against her ribs. Duke's hand moved toward his gun. Cole snapped, "No." Everyone froze. Avery looked at Sloane. "I know." Sloane's face tightened. "Then walk toward me." Avery could hear the lake, the rain, Cole's breathing beside her, the agent's radios, the world splitting itself in two. Sloane softened her voice. "He will ruin your life." Avery glanced at Cole. His face was unreadable except for the eyes. Those gave him away. He was ready for her to leave. Not because he wanted it, because some part of him believed everyone eventually should. Avery turned back to Sloane. "My life was already mine to ruin." Sloane's eyes sharpened. "That is not an answer." Avery took a slow breath. "I am not your informant. I am not his hostage. I am a witness to an attempted murder at a charity event. I got civilians out. I stopped a basement breach. I can give you that statement with my lawyer present." Sloane lowered her chin, and Maddox Avery did not look away. "You will have to catch him without using me as bait." Cole's hand found hers, this time in front of everyone. Sloane saw it. Something like disappointment crossed her face, but not surprise. "Once you cross that line, Miss Collins, it gets harder to come back." Avery looked down at Cole's blood on her fingers, then at the boat, then at the estate above them glowing through the rain like a wounded animal. She thought of the hallway at the Monroe Grand, the scattered papers, the silence after one wrong word. She thought of white roses hiding guns, of Mia waving guests into safety, of Cole's voice in the dark telling her to stand beside him. "I know," Avery said. Cole pulled her toward the boat, but gently, still giving her room to stop. She did not stop. Duke fired a smoke canister into the corridor floor. White smoke exploded between them and the agents. Sloane shouted. The agents moved, but Cole and Avery were already on the dock. Rain soaked her hair to her face. Cole helped her into the boat, then stumbled slightly. Avery caught him. "For the record," she said, breathless, "this is the worst event exit I have ever coordinated." Cole sank into the seat beside her, one hand pressed to his arm. "I will do better next time. There will not be a next time." His eyes met hers. Even wounded, soaked, and half-hidden in darkness, that smirk found its way back to his mouth. "You said that last time." The boat pulled away from the dock. Behind them, lights from the estate blurred in the rain. Federal flashlights cut across the boathouse. Sloane reached the edge too late, her figure small and sharp against the storm. Avery sat beside Cole as the lake opened around them. For the first time all night, no one was shouting. No gunfire. No chandeliers falling. Only the engine, the rain, and Cole's breathing slowly evening out, because Avery refused to stop watching him. He looked at her hand still wrapped around his. "You stayed." Avery stared out at the black water. "I chose." Cole was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "There is a difference." "Yes." She turned back to him. "And if you ever forget it, I will remind you loudly." His eyes warmed despite the pain. "I believe you." The boat cut through the rain toward the dark curve of the shoreline. Chicago shimmered far off in the distance, a crown of cold light across the water. Avery should have been terrified. She was. But fear was no longer the only thing in her chest. Cole lifted his good hand and brushed wet hair from her cheek. His fingers were cold. His touch was careful, almost reverent. "I should have let you walk away." Avery swallowed. "Probably. I still can." The offer hung between them. Real, painful. She leaned closer and adjusted the ruined collar of his shirt the same way she had imagined doing in the corridor before the world split open. "You are insane." Cole's eyes darkened. Rain ran down his face. His smile came slowly dangerous and beautiful. "What did you say?" Avery's mouth curved despite everything. She looked into the eyes of Chicago's most feared man, the man who had turned her life into smoke and silk and blood, the man who had stopped forcing her the moment her choice became the only thing that mattered. "I said you are insane, baby." Cole's breath caught. For once, the word did not sound like a mistake. It sounded like a match striking. He leaned closer, his lips almost touching hers. "Say it again." Avery's hand slid into his wet hair. "Baby." His voice dropped to a whisper against her mouth. Slower. This time, Avery kissed him first. Not because the danger was gone, not because the story had become safe, because above the ruined estate beneath the rain with the FBI behind them and enemies still breathing in the dark, Avery Collins finally understood that one wrong word had not stolen her life. It had opened a door, and she had walked through it with her eyes wide open.